Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Jake. Today we're going to be working on this 2001 F-150 that has a pretty active misfire. The first step in any diagnostic is to run codes. After running codes, we found that this truck has a P0355 ignition primary E control circuit. What that stands for is there's actually a problem on cylinder 5 with the ignition coil or the power leading to that. So what you can do to diagnose that is switch that coil to a different cylinder. And if that misfire, that code follows, in our case it was P0354, which tells us that ignition coil is bad and needs to be replaced. The person previous to me already replaced a spark plug. It's not necessarily an injector issue. You can have many different reasons for a misfire: compression, fuel ratio, a bad spark plug. But in this case, it was the ignition coil that is bad. And I'll go ahead and show you what that is and how we replaced it. Okay, so this truck is equipped with a 4.6 liter Triton engine. I like them, they're pretty reliable. They don't have the power of the 5.4, but they definitely have a lot more reliability. The 5.4 this generation wasn't too terrible either. So Ford's actually made it pretty easy. Starting over here on the passenger side, this is cylinder 1. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then coming over to the driver's side, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that makes it pretty easy to find out where cylinder 5 is. It's right over here. And you got your power steering. You will need to disconnect some stuff. Like I said, it really depends on what code you have. This one, in our case, was P0355. And this is a little ignition coil. See if I can zoom in here. This little guy right down here. You can see it's plugged in. We went ahead and tested power and ground. If you're not getting there, then you want to go ahead and test it from the PCM. Make sure everything's good there, and then kind of follow where your short is. A simple test of that too is, like I said, we just switched it around to the ignition coil next to it, and the misfire followed. So that tells you right there the ignition, or the coil itself, is bad. These just kind of replaced your spark plug wires. They're kind of like a little mini, computer in there that, they get hot and cold and they go bad eventually. This truck has 180,000 miles on it. These are the original Motorcraft ignition coils. I recommend going back with Motorcraft. It made 180,000 miles. And I've had problems with, a lot of the aftermarket ones. They'll last maybe 20,000 miles and then they start misfiring again. And they're not so cheap. I think this one on Rock Auto was like 50, 60 bucks. Or actually, I think I might have got it on Amazon for 50, 60 bucks. I'll find out, put the link below. But we're going to go ahead and replace that. I believe it's a 7mm or 8mm. I'll find out for sure, and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, so you want to go ahead and unclip this air intake right here, air intake tube, and there's going to be a little bracket right here with two 8mm, actually 3 8mm bolts that we're going to want to go ahead and take off here. You don't have to disconnect these. They're not really going to be in our way. Just kind of be mindful of them when you're, ratcheting that ignition coil off. But it will it's bendable, so it'll slide out of the ignition coil will. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. I don't think this power steering needs to come out of the way if we get that bracket out of the way. It should be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and try that now. You're welcome to disconnect this stuff. It's just, it's old, and, that's more chances of something breaking. So if it doesn't need to come out of the way, just leave it alone. Okay, so we went ahead and got that bracket out of the way. I don't know about yours, but mine was definitely pretty rusty, so those bolts were in there. Pretty good. So right here, we're just going to go ahead and disconnect our ignition coil. There's a little tab on this side that you push down and pull back, and that thing will come right out of there. Okay, there's a 7mm bolt. I knew it was an odd size. I remember working at Ford. I'm like, a 7mm? But yeah, it is a 7mm. An extension, a swivel will kind of help you get in there, but you can't get on the other side of these two little connectors right here in this vacuum hose. You can get on the other side and it's straight down. So I'm gonna go ahead and bust that out of there. Like I said, the tube will bend, so it's just that top part is hard. So you can kind of fish that out of there. It's not terrible. We're just gonna go ahead and do that now. You want to make sure there's no coolant on there. Not so much the 4.6. I think the 4.6 and 5.4 both did it, but this one actually has a metal intake. So the plastic intake, they were very common to crack, and they would, you know, put coolant down into the cylinder, start messing with his ignitions, and you know, you go to the auto store, you're like, oh yeah, it's an ignition coil, and then you find out, no, I need like a $400 or $500 freaking intake. You know, so I mean, it's better than, you know, a head gasket blowing, but and that's also happened on these 4.6s in the higher miles. So you know, we're gonna go ahead and do that now, and we'll reconvene. So here it is, we got it out. You know, just want to kind of visually inspect it. This is a factory Motorcraft ignition coil, so it has never been replaced. Just kind of want to look around for, you know, any, you know, indications that it's been in water or anything like that. They just go bad over time. You know, nothing. There's really no point of failure on this guy. I know what you're thinking. You know, why didn't you just replace it when you were swapping it around? One, I wanted to make sure, and two, I put it back just for the video. You know, just so you guys could see, and it's not that hard to change. So we're gonna go ahead and get the new one. I did get it from Rock Auto. It was about 50 bucks. But I'll see if I can find it on Amazon cheaper for you guys and put that link below. But I know, you know, if you're proactive and you want to change them all, I mean, 50 bucks at, you know, eight of them, that's gonna be pretty high. So, but just go with the factory one. I'm telling you, you're gonna save time, you're gonna save money in the long run, because I'm telling you, 20, 30,000 miles down the road, you're going to have issues. At least I have in my case. I don't know if somebody out there has had good luck with aftermarket, let me know. When I worked at the Ford dealership, and we put, you know, ones on there that were aftermarket, we had tons of issues with them. So we just kind of recommended the Motorcraft, and customers never came back with an issue. So, okay, so here's the part number. Don't judge my bag opening skills. I'm still a child at heart, so I just get in there as soon as I can, kind of like Christmas morning. But here is the part number. Like I said, Rock Auto. Once you get that out, you just kind of want to visually inspect, make sure it's the exact same one. You know, I have had issues in the past where Rock Auto has sent me the wrong thing. And it's kind of annoying that, you know, everything is online. I'm sure that saves money for them, but sometimes it's nice to just be able to talk to somebody and explain, you know, what they messed up or what I messed up, or so. Does look like maybe, you know, this could be aftermarket. I've noticed at the dealership they typically said, you know, Motorcraft or Ford on here, but there's nothing. So that's not going to make a difference, though. It's just a boot. So as long as it snaps on there, that's all I really care about. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stick that back in that hole. And we're going to go ahead and zip her down and plug it back in, and we'll reconvene. Okay, we got that back in there, tightened down. I don't worry about torque specs, you know, German specs, good and tight. It's going to work just fine for that. We go ahead and plug it back in right down here. It only plugs in one way. You'll hear a snap or a click. When you're kind of pushing that down, you just kind of want to rock it in there, and you'll feel it just kind of hit the top of that spark plug, and you'll kind of be lined up, you know, maybe this much of an inch away from that bolt hole, and that's how you know you're really on there. So yeah, it looks like it's going to go ahead and fix our issue. Just be mindful of these wires and vacuum lines if you don't take them off. You know, they're old. Right now it's pretty cold, so don't be bold, and yeah, you get the idea. Just don't go in there, you know, with the intention of just pushing everything and prying on everything, because it will snap, and then you're going to have a bigger issue than what you started with. So I would just go ahead and, I mean, if you feel like, you know, you can't be careful, I would go ahead and take this stuff off. But as you can see, I think this truck came from the Northeast or somewhere, because it is rusty. I mean, here in Kansas, we get rusty cars, but this is just, everywhere is rusty. Everywhere but the frame, luckily, because these do have issues of the frame rotting. So if you have an F-150, definitely check that out as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get that bracket back on there. And, yeah, that should pretty much do it. We'll go ahead and start it up, make sure our misfire is for sure gone, and go ahead and do a test drive. Okay, I've got that bracket back on there. Hopefully yours isn't as bad as mine. You know, it's pretty rusty. This bracket was already broken. This little clip right here, just literally sitting right here on top of there. So hopefully yours isn't broken. You know, I got to kind of sit in there a little bit, but it's, you know, it's maybe half of it is broke off. So we're gonna go ahead and get the air box back on here. It's a good time to check your air filter too. You know, mine's brand new, but if you got an old air filter, it's also a mass airflow sensor you need to plug in right here. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick. All right, last but not least, if you're lucky enough to still have this little plastic cover, there's just those 3 10mm bolts that you need to put back on there. And you're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up and make sure our misfire is gone. If yours continues and you didn't do the diagnostics correctly, you know, you kind of want to start at power, make sure power's going there. Make sure you had that same exact code. You know, if you just have a P0355, you know, you could have a compression issue, you could have a fuel issue, your spark plug could still be bad. So make sure you had the P0355, which was just on the ignition side of things. You know, if you still had that code and kind of skipped a step of, you know, checking the circuit, you know, you could have a circuit problem, could have a broken wire. You know, we've got a lot of squirrels and mice out here in Kansas that will come in here and chew up things. I've seen some pack rats too, especially in the cold winter months. You know, they're looking for a place to stay warm, so they'll chew anything and everything they can find. Another reason for that too is there's actually soy in these wires, and they love soy. And they don't even eat it; they just sharpen their wire, or they're sharpen their teeth on it. So, and they'll, you know, tear it up, take it to a little nest, and just a mess. So make sure, you know, also just visually inspect the wires too while you're there. You know, if you got one that's completely cut, you know, that's going to be an issue. This truck had a dead hole, and wherever I put that ignition coil, that misfire followed, so I knew right away that that was my issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it up, make sure that's all gone, make sure the code's cleared, and go take it for a test drive. All right, so that actually fixed our misfire issue. The P0355 is gone. I went ahead and took it on a test drive, kind of used it here and there, make sure that misfire didn't, you know, continue under load. So we are good to go. Hopefully this fixes your issue as well. Hopefully I've given you enough diagnostic tips. If not, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video helped you. If it did, please hit the like and subscribe button. You know, it'll help me out a lot, help get this video out to other people so they can avoid the costly repairs of having to go to a dealer for something simple like this. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.